Welcome to our weekly Timeless Principles for Extraordinary Living with Dr. Alex. Dr. Alex believes that you were born for extraordinary exploits, to be an exhibition of divine abundance. Today's session, as all others, will inspire you to experience extraordinary living. Join Dr. Alex now. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to this episode of Extraordinary Exploits with Dr. Alex. And today I am here with another Dr. Alex. I'm joking. I'm here with QS. Welcome to the show, Mr. QS.
Thank you so much, Setu, for welcoming me on the Extraordinary Exploits with Dr. Alex.
It's all our pleasure. And tonight we'll be discussing a very interesting topic. I can say when I read it, I had to read it more than once. So I hope that you have a pen and you have a paper or an iPad or a Samsung, as Dr. Alex would always say. And we are going to be discussing managing our relationships as if they were our customers. Now, I know, like I said, at hearing that for the first time, you're thinking the link between relationships and customers. And I'll leave that over to you to just give us a few principles on how we can actually link those two things.
Thank you so much. Yes, it is indeed an interesting topic for tonight. What we'll look into is 3 or 4 principles around how do we use a tool called customer relationship management to help us to manage our personal relationship as if they were customers, and then I'll go more in detail regarding the model, and then from there I'll leave everyone at home that is connected as part of the platform an excitement assignment in terms of what do we need to do as we continue to build relationships. So I think in the premise, the first thing is understanding the topic. The topic, it says managing our relationship as if they were customers. Why customers versus relationship? Yeah. So I think that's the first thing that I think I want us to just explore. Yeah. So the first 2 definitions that I actually had to get, one was, what is the customer? So let's understand what is the customer. It is someone who needs a product or a service that the company provides. So in that, the key word is needs. So I call it demand and supply, which means then there is something that the world needs, there is something that the relationship will need. So as we come into the relationship, as Dr. Alex has mentioned in the previous session, that it always starts with the 2 conversations, the 2 platforms, the 2 people, or even beyond. So there is a need. The second definition which I want to touch on is on who is the customer. So the first one was what? Which brought the need. Then who is the customer? A person or organization or a group who buys goods or services from the shop or from the business. Now, this one is very interesting. It just brings a component of buying. So the first one was needs, which means demand and supply. The second one is now buys, which means there is an element of an exchange. So within the relationship, there must be an exchange. Now, as we then bring the conversation tonight around then the customer relation model in application, I just want to read a bit of a statement so that we understand from the concept before we bring it into practice. Yes. So CRM help us to build business in relationship with the customers so that in turn it creates 1, loyalty, number 2, customer retention, number 3, revenue. Obviously, I chose those 3. There are more, right? Yeah. So for our discussion tonight, let then now this tool called customer retention relationship management help us as individuals who are in a relationship able to create some loyalty, some engagement to one another, to each one another, and also to drive a retention, which means our relationship must last, must not be an overnight relationship. And finally, through this relationship, we should be able to make some money, we should be able to make some dollars. God creates us to be in this relationship to transform the community, to transform the nation, to transform one another, but on top of that, is also to make some dollars. So it's very important that we're looking at that view that as we enter in this conversation tonight, we cover those items. So the key thing about this model, right, we pick it up from the Bible, the story in the Bible, Joseph's story. I think you know the story, Setu.
I do. I know the story.
Awesome. So the story, it has two relationships that we pick up within the story of Joseph. So the first one was sort of a bad relationship that he had with his brothers. You know, that's why they threw him in the pit. So that relationship could not yield into something interesting.
There were no
But
dollars.
we know from the kingdom there was a greater purpose.
Amen.
But then on the other side, when he moved from then the relationship that he had with his brothers, he then moved into Egypt. In Egypt, we find that some of these key principles within the customer relationship model, there he applied, then he was able to benefit these few things. So the model helps us to manage our relationship. So the model will help you to manage your customers. Who is your customer? Who is around you? So in the concept of the relationship, we need to know who's with us in the journey. Where are we going with these people in this journey? And why we are going and why they are there. The second part of the model is to help us to grow the relationship, to grow the base, to grow the people that we know. Because the relationship can be on one-on-one, also it can be one into the many, into the group. So again, the model helps us to do a bit of insight around how do we grow. And then number three, it increases the spectrum of services and offerings. So customers, you know, customers, they always look after or look for services, products, and also offerings, right? Now, the key thing about the model, it helps us that we must be able to grow that spectrum, that bouquet, that basket of our offerings and services. And now, same in the relationship. We need to grow those offerings. We need to grow those services. What can we offer? To who can we offer? And why do we have and do we need to offer to the world? Then the last one, which is number 4, is then to execute more with our relationship. So when we execute more with our relationship, like for example, Joseph, he was able to do more in the foreign land because of relationship. He was able to call people together and create relationship through different structures, and you're able to instruct them. That's why he was able to do the business, and he was able to be promoted to be second in charge in Egypt. So now, from our side, we need to make sure that we understand the model and how do we apply in managing, in growing, in increasing, and finally to execute more.
Wow. I really do hope that you are at home taking notes, because I think these are some of the things when, like I said, when I first read or heard of the topic, I thought, how do we link a relationship with our customer? But just like you, as you're opening it up and it's making more sense. Now, you've been referring to this model and, its application. And if you can just, go into a bit of detail on that, on what the model actually is and how we can maybe practically apply some of these principles. I like the one about the dollars in the relationship, especially the marriage relationship, amen. And how we can apply this model in a practical way.
Awesome. So the first one, in managing our relationship as if they were our customers. So the first model that we pick from the CRM is customer life cycle. So we need to understand our customers. We need to understand their life cycle, right? So some customers, you get them because there's a sale or promotion, but they fall somewhere down the road, and then you pick up the new ones and everything. So same also in the relationship. We need to make sure that we know who is in the relationship. So we know the life cycle of the relationship. Some relationships are permanent. Some relationships are for you to be a foundation. Some are like the walls when you're building the house. Some are like the roof. So we need to also know when to hold on to some of these relationships, and also when to let go of some of them which are no more relevant to our journey and our calling. So the first point that I want to touch on around the understanding the relationship and its life cycle, we must take our time. pros and cons. Let's evaluate the relationship. Let's evaluate the goal. Let's evaluate the vision why you are entering in that particular relationship. Because we take time with our customers. You first segment the product. You first segment even your price point to say, okay, I need to attract these customers to my business. Now, same with the relationship, we need to make sure we need to make sure to understand who do we attract into our lives, into our homes, into our business. The second thing is within customer life cycle, which we then bring it into relationship, is build partnership. We must make sure that we invest in building partnership. We must create active interest. Now, what is the active interest? It could be engagement within the ministry, for example. It could be the business. It could be a family. So as we build these relationships, it's important that we focus on where we want to partner and what do we need to do. Then the other thing is we need to stay in touch. So for us to maintain the life cycle of the relationship, we need to stay in touch. We need to make sure we communicate timely and also be relevant. What is our conversation all about? What is the topic of the day? And what made us to take some time off on other things and come and have a conversation? And I think the other point that I really want to touch on as we're looking at the relationship and their life cycle is to review who do you have around you and for what purposes. I think Dr. Alex called it nicely that as we are framed with different worlds, do we have the right relationship for the different worlds that God has given us? Do we have the right relationship for where we're going? Do we have the right relationship for our families? Do we have the right relationship for dollars? For creating those dollars. So that's very important as the first part of our model touches around understanding what is the relationship and also its life cycle. The second part is about marketing. It's about PR. For me, the key thing is around the marketing. Before you could attract the customers within your shop, within your product, you need to have a proper marketing strategy. So we also need to package ourselves. We also need to build our marketing strategies around our relationship. So what do we have to offer? So before you go and invest and start a relationship, what do you have to offer? And also, what do you require or need from that relationship? Because what I will tell you, there are so many people that just because they saw you at church, they saw you at the mall, you were at the business forum, then they think, okay, you know what, I think I need to connect without doing a thorough investigation to say, what do I need? What do I want? Remember, the customer, it's about the want, which is the need, and also to buy. So there must be exchange. So you're not going to enter into a relationship then if those two concepts are not in place. And then after that, we need to create aligned plans. So it's important that before I start a relationship, then I'm aligned to my plans. I'm also part of my first conversation in building and starting the relationship. We create aligned plans. And understanding the expectation from both ends. Most of the relationship, people, they go with one-sided approach. That's why they fail. That's why they are not relationship. Instead, they are called something else within management. So I'm not going to touch on that. But as we are building and managing our relationship as if they were customers, we need to make sure that we understand the expectation. So it's important at the early stage in our conversation or even at the middle of the relationship to still revisit the expectation, to still understand the expectation in terms of how are we going in terms of our goal and the vision. Then we need also to be sincere and be consistent. Promise what you can deliver. Promise what you can deliver. Most relationship people, they come on the pretense. Most of the people, they come because they want more versus investing in the relationship. I mean, as we're reflecting on the story of Joseph, he could have done things other way around. The journey when he entered the house in Egypt. There were a lot of tempting things. He could have easily fallen into that because, again, there was sort of a relationship that was about to start, but it was a one-sided relationship. And he was firm, he was sincere, he was consistent in terms of who he is and why he was there. So accept support and also be supportive when you are driving the element of marketing. So once you're in a relationship, it does not end. And marketing must be part and parcel of what we do in our relationship. So accept support because part of the relationship is to build one another and also be able to support. Many people are not able to receive the support. They want it to be one-sided. They want just to be their way and everything. Then point number 3, as we explore on the model of then the customer relationship management around managing our relationship as if they were customers, is engagement. Engagement or touch points or communication platforms. How do we then communicate when we are in the relationship, right? So it's very important that we understand that the first thing that I ask anyone who wants to start, who is in a relationship, is that who do we meet and why do we meet? Who do you engage? Who do you talk to? Who do you have a conversation with? Because it's quite an interesting journey. We all receive 24 hours within the day, and these hours are sometimes wasted on meaningless relationship. Sometimes this time is wasted on meaningless conversation. So it's important that when you enter into the conversation, when you want to start the relationship, that you invest in understanding who do you want to meet and why you want to meet them. I know, for example, again, as we're on the Dr. Alex show, he likes to prioritize and give things to time. I know, for example, in his family time, he gives time to a family because he's building a relationship with the family. So he's not taking it for granted that, okay, who am I meeting? He prepares for a meeting. He set aside the time for that. Again, part of then the touch points or engagement, we need to be transparent when we are in the conversation. Many relationships are built on false hope. Many relationships are not built on trust, are built on simply mere talks without facts, without proper foundation. So transparency is very important, and also seeking understanding on the topic of discussion. Why are we having this conversation? Why are we starting this relationship? What are the elements within the topics, within the business, within the ministry of the things that we are engaged on? And the other thing that is so crucial and important within engagement and touchpoint is have feedback session.
In the relationship.
In the relationship. So even if you're in the relationship to make dollars, stop, pause, have feedback session. Did we achieve what we set ourselves to achieve? Did we get what we wanted? Where can we improve? What are the shortcomings? And if we don't do that, what happens then? Then we're not able to reflect if then the relationship is healthy, is it moving towards the right goal and also our vision, and then we find that then it goes to crack. Then the last thing within engaging in the touch point is around being responsive and make follow-ups. Remember earlier on I touched that we need to create aligned plans. So these plans must be reviewed. This conversation must have responsibility time frames. And also there must be follow-ups. We're not just sitting and making these commitments and these plans and they just to decorate and put them on the wall. They must be revisited, like here in the house. We talk about the goals each and every year when it starts. They must be measurable. They must have who's going to execute them. They must have time and also the review date so that you also know whether you have achieved or not. And I think the key element around then the engagement, the touch point, the communication part is also to maximize to use technology. We are living in such a very busy world where we find that you've got relationship outside the country, you've got relationship on social media. So even the relationship that sometimes are face to face, we sometimes need to invest on technology to make sure we can enhance those engagement. So when we have commitment that we need to meet and review, and if time to drive does not permit, let's maximize on the platforms. Like, for example, their website, there's Zooms, there's social medias, the emails, the calls, the chats, and we need to be flexible. In this time and age, we need to make sure that technology become the enabler in our relationship. I mean, even at home, a simple relationship like a marriage. I could be traveling to a business meeting in Cape Town. So when I land there, I should be able to text my wife at home and say, I've landed safe. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
Or I'm about to get to the meeting. So if you're looking for me at this particular time, just drop me a message or leave a voicemail. So it's important that we maximize technology within the space of the relationship. And again, for organization or the retail or whoever is in the business, you find that they use technology in making sure that they can retain, grow, and make some dollars. So then the last one within the engagement and the touch point for me, and I think I spend too much time on this one because it's very important. In the relationship, we need to communicate. In the organization, there is a constant communication between the organization, the business, and the customer. I mean, you see it on the ads, you see it on the flyers and all that. But we, in our own world, we don't have flyers. You don't have flyers with of yourself with your children. You don't have flyers of yourself with dad.
Let's do
So
some
it's about learning from those models to say how can we then improve and making sure these things are in place. So we must vary our communication approaches. Like as I said, even when we can't do face to face, it doesn't mean that we should not communicate. We must communicate always. Then the last one. The last one, as I said, I'll touch 3 or 4. So I will then only just touch the last one now. And then I'm not sure whether we have a Q&A session.
I think we have to organize it.
Because okay, all right.
Personally, I have a long list already as part of the relationship.
So I think those are some of the things that we will engage the apostle, maybe utilizing technology. So while we are having a live session like this, we can have then the question coming in, such more clarity and a deep dive in some of the things that the apostle is talking about, Dr. Alex, on the extraordinary exploit. So let me touch on the last one before I get carried away. So the last one, add value and grow loyalty in the relationship. Each and every customer that you acquire, if you don't add value, they will go. And remember, a customer is always sitting in between the businesses. So if you're not servicing that customer very well, somebody else is going to take it. So same with the relationship. If you're not servicing the relationship accordingly, there are other relationships. There are other people who want to build the relationship with that particular person. I'll give an example. The apostle here, you know that he has a different worlds. So one, he is a nuclear scientist. The other one, he is a doctor. The other one, he is, the pastor. And then the other one, he is the marketplace guru. So you find that there are so many of us competing to find airtime with him, to build relationship. I mean, when he's in Swaziland, I always travel with him now and again. When he's there, you find that when he's finished the session, there's people who want to see him, this. So it's important that in the relationship, grow and add the value and grow loyalty in it. So let's look at a few things. How do we do that? Right. The first one, you need to bring business leads into this relationship. So if it's at home, bring things that are exciting. If it's with your children, again, use Google to find more. How do I build my relationship with my children? Maybe have some time to play with them. Maybe have some time to take them for ice cream. But the key thing, even with the business, we need to invest in bringing new dimension, sharing of information, sharing of knowledge, sharing of our day. I mean, you find that on the day you've been in different meetings and everything, then also you hear other opportunities that might not be in your space. But as you share them in that one circle of relationship, then you find that that person knows another one. Then suddenly you end up being part of a bigger business because you just came to add value in that relationship. The other thing is we need to make sure that we reward loyalty with gifts. I know this one, and I'm going to talk to
Let's clap
the people that are
that one.
connecting. We are following Dr. Alex, and I'm so excited. But when I see the numbers, when I see the followers, we're not really rewarding Dr. Alex according to the content and its richness. You know, this platform, let me tell you, it's meant for kingdom. It meant for people to transform nations. Now, we need to reward this kind of activity with loyalty. What is loyalty? We need to go subscribe. That's the first thing. Then we bringing value because as we come in numbers in this platform, and suddenly we are able to position this platform to be a bigger and better. Then the other thing is we need to make sure in whichever way we reward with gifts, but with an open mind. So how many relationships you have, even at home, now and again, you need to just show up with a gift. You know,
Amen.
with your children, you need to show up with a gift. When you see your business people, be it for lunch, be it for a meeting, you need to just show up with a gift. And we need to make sure those things are in place because they maintain relationship. And some of these gifts, as I saying, with an open mind. Some things that they sit where strategically, where one, when they walk into their office, they remember about your brand, they remember about you, they remember the conversation. I know many people, they like the business cards, okay? So with technology, that is changing. So it's for a topic for another day. But the key thing is make sure that when you reward those relationships with gifts, it's something that it's able to be presented somewhere. It always carry you, carry your brand, carry your offerings, carry your services, carry the things that you want to do. So every time when the person sees that in their office, when they enter their home, they remember you. So you might find that they come from a beautiful meeting, they call it in Daba, somewhere international. As they come back home, they are tired and they see that gift, you know, because of the relationship. And they remember, I need to call this person and tell them about these opportunities and everything. So it's important that we add value and grow loyalty. Then the other thing is we need to love our relationship. Because our relationship are our network. They cause our networks to grow. They cause our network web to grow. These relationships are so crucial that when you're not investing in them, like in love, because other relationships you could see that here you are just a number. In other relationships you can see here you just had to be called to fill the room. So, but let's honor and making sure that those relationships, we love them. And when we show love, as the Bible says, when you give, it shall come back to you. So as you love those relationships, then definitely your networks will increase, your engagement platform will increase, and also favor will follow you. And then the last one, I think for me, this is so important. You know, as Baba would always say, if you forget anything and everything I said today and everything. So this one, very important, to say thank you. And there's a story again in the Bible of people that Jesus Christ helped and they did not come to say thank you. So we call it thanksgiving here, you know, in the kingdom language. But we must be able to say thank you in the multiple ways. So for our relationship to continue to grow, we must be able to have the word thank you. Like same as a customer. The fact that they came to your door, thank you. Whether they bought or not. The fact that they came to your store and they bought something, it might not be in millions, but thank you is important. Same with our relationship. A text, a note, a referral. It should be also important in our relationship, in making sure that we grow our relationship. We manage our relationship. We can do more with our relationship. So with these four things, first one, making sure we understand the life cycle of our relationship. Number two is to make sure that we PR each other in that relationship, what we are offering, why we are in this relationship. Number three is engagement. when you are in a relationship, communication is fundamental. It's very important, and be transparent. And the most important part there is to make sure that there is a feedback part. Then the last one is then add value and grow loyalty.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. I think that this has been a very eye-opening session for myself, really, in all honesty. And I think what stood out for me more was the point that says know the life cycle of your relationship. I am not really in sales, but I would imagine that even in with customers, there's certain products that you're not going to have on the shelf forever
Yeah.
because they are not relevant
Yes.
forever.
Yeah.
And even as a customer, there's certain things that I used to buy 10 years ago that I don't buy now. So I think that's a very important point to say, know the life cycle of the relationship. I really appreciate this time that you've given. It's been eye-opening, like I said, for me. It's looking at relationships in a very different way, but also in a practical way. Because I think some of these things, I mean, when you talk about marketing and branding, even if you're not in sales, but
Yep.
I don't have a flyer of myself, it's a problem
Yep.
for my relationships.
Well, that's just
But-
the beginning, the flyer. I mean,
Yes.
think about other people, they've got magazines, they've got billboards. So again, part of the maintaining and making sure we grow
the
this
relationship.
relationship, we must actually look at the actual concept of how business engages the customer, driving that need so that there is exchange of buying and there is more into it.
Yeah, wow. Thank you so much, QS, for coming through and sharing this. I've been impacted greatly. And at this point, and I hope, like I said, everyone has a pen and a paper. And I would encourage you to, even after the session, take some time and listen again and take what resonates with you. But before we say goodnight, is there any last words? Last words.
Yes. I just wanna.
that you'd wanna say. And you said you have an assignment for us as well.
Yes. So there's just two quotes that I want to just give those that are connected. A perfect relationship isn't perfect. It is just that both people never gave up. A perfect relationship isn't perfect. It is because the two parties never gave up. So each and every relationship, when it's well nurtured, when it's well taken care of, then and show the sign not to give up, it will get to the other side. It will yield the result. The other quote, we make a living by what we get. We make a life by what we give. So I'll repeat that. We make a living by what we get. So the relationship, remember the exchange? Yes. We will make life because of what we get from the relationships that we build. And we make life by what we give. So in the relationship, we need to give. So on my closing comments or parting shot to the one who's connected is that make sure in your relationship that you're about to start, that you are in it, the vision is clear, your goals are clear. Prepare yourself for growth because don't enter any relationship if you're not prepared to grow. Prepare yourself to grow. Have an ability to make sure in that particular relationship you communicate clearly and always have a positive attitude. As I read the quote, it is not perfect, but both, they decided not to give up because they were always putting a mindset of not giving up. Consider and respect your relationship. So many people, they take the relationship for granted. So they don't consider that this other person is investing, this other person is investing time, this other person is investing opportunities, this other person, it could have taken those opportunities to somebody else. Respect those relationships. I know people, they take it for granted. Let me not take it further in terms of that. So it's a call to you as we are on Dr. Alex, Extraordinary Exploits, that consider and respect your relationship. Keep it simple and always be professional. Even if you're meeting over coffee, even if you're meeting online, be always professional. I know that the apostle will talk about coaching and mentorship somewhere in the future, but it's important to keep things simple so that you're able to review, you're able to measure, and always be professional. Use the time when like today, we had a relationship at Dr. Alex extraordinary experts talking about how we manage these relationships. So we must use time effectively. Time is dollars, time is money. And the most important thing, measure the success of the relationship. Take time, breathe, pause, measure the success of the relationship. As I'm closing, identify the relationship that you want to be in and why you want to be there, streamline, personalize it, take ownership of it, engage when you are in that relationship, and do feedback. And with those words, thank you so much for hosting me. And again, thank you so much for Dr. Alex for creating such an opportunity to talk to the world about managing our relationship as if they were our customers. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing this knowledge. Like, you've spoken that you've got something to offer in this relationship, and I think you've just given so much to myself and to everyone who is watching at home. And I do hope that people will be able to take this. And I think, as you said, it applies to every relationship, whether we made an example of the marriage, whether it's a friendship between a mother and a child or a parent and a child, even at work, in work instances. So I do really hope that you have taken so much from the session, as much as I did as I was busy with the interview. It's always funny to interview because you don't want to look like you didn't know. You know, you don't want to look like, what? Because people are thinking you expected it and you know. But really, we do appreciate. We will give feedback on that follow-up, on the Q&A session. I do hope that it's something that we can do in future, because I know that people do have questions. And before we close off, please remember to subscribe and share the link and share this platform with your friends and your family. And we will see you again next week, Wednesday, at 6:30 Central African Time. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a good evening. Thank you for connecting with us on Extraordinary Exploits with Dr. Alex. We value your connection. Join us every Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. Central African Time. And remember to invite others. Experience extraordinary living.